First things first, guys. How are you?
Good.
So, what I want to start with is Deep Wound. Okay. How good were they?
Good.
It was great.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I was very like, "Ugh."
If you go back to that time, what was where was music for you?
Where was music for when Deep Wound?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was the early 80s, I guess, 82, 83. There was kind of this worldwide movement of like extremely fast punk rock bands, and sort of the beginning of music they kind of called thrash a little bit later on, but it was extremely fast punk rock. But to me, it kind of verged on like an almost a form of folk music, and almost because the beat's almost like it's almost like a polka music or something. And the way that the music was stripped down, it was music stripped down to its barest essentials, and it was very noisy.
And in terms of the subject matter, then,
very personal lyrics, personal politics, you know. And in some ways, not so much like big politics, but very personal, you know, about your feelings, you know, growing up, trying to maintain your personal integrity. And there was a lot of bands that were doing things that were similar to that. I would say Deep Wound were attempting to add to this
teenage angst.
Yeah, we were attempting to add to this river of music that was happening then, and the point was to play as fast as possible, which was very appealing to me.
And I was like a huge Deep Wound fan. I used to go to all the rehearsals, or as many as I could, and the gigs, and I was always just blown away. Because Jay was they were all like such better musicians. I was just starting drums, so it was like really amazing for me to watch. And I actually think we did shows with bands from Boston, and I think some of the older bands were a little intimidated because they were so good. I think they were kind of like, ooh, like who are these kids from Western Mass? Because they were really, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, for you, what's your aspiration then to be in a band?
I wanted to be a drummer. Yeah, I wanted to be in a band.
He was in a band called All White Jury.
Yeah, we were like an oi slower band, and the guys were older. I was the only high school kid in the band. The other guys were in university, and we aspired. You know, I wanted to be, you know, something closer to Deep Wound, but I couldn't play that fast, or, you know.
So when did kind of your world and then your world and Deep Wound kind of come together?
Jay went from drums. He played drums in Deep Wound. I played guitar. Jay, you know, as the musical atmosphere changed, and we left high school. Jay left high school, and different kinds of you know, hardcore became less important to us. Thrash became less important. And
why?
Because we were, at our heart, we're musicians and music lovers. So to only love a very narrow kind of music, it doesn't make sense. You know,
you start maturing.
You start maturing, and you also, you know, you like other things. You know, we like, so for instance, you know, I really liked the Cocteau Twins, and I began to listen to Neil Young, and you begin to discover 60s music. Outside of the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, you realize that there's all this music that came from the 60s that was amazing. And then there were bands at that time like REM who were making incredibly great original music, you know. So, you know, the very first REM records, you know, Chronic Town, Murmur, those were big records. And so you want to make music that reflects your tastes more, I guess. And our taste became much broader. So.
And Jay wanted to go from being just a player, a drummer. I think he was already starting to feel the aspirations of wanting to write songs. He knew he'd have to switch to guitar and be a front man to really start achieving those goals. And so he recruited me, because I knew him in high school on drums.
Yeah, and he knew Murph to be a good drummer. Okay. And he knew that I would play. So.
So, well, your music is developing. you're getting together. So did you have a conversation before making any music of what you wanted to do?
No. We just, Jay, I don't know, Jay just said what he wanted. He's like, I want you to play bass.
He had a loose idea of, he used to say maybe a country punk band when he started, but we didn't really know, and that's kind of the first album we just kind of were fishing around, And then by Living All Over Me, that's when things really started kind of solidifying and we became more defined.
And again, was this a result of maturing and finding your way with each other?
A little bit. I mean, for me, it was just I got better as a drummer. Working with Jay, I had to get better to play his songs because he was writing stuff much more advanced that was above my level, so I had to work really hard to try to get to that level to play the songs, and then inevitably you just become a better musician. You start becoming tighter. We just got better.
And creatively in that period, there were some lineup changes. Was that difficult for you to deal with?
Lineup change when?
Around Green Mind.
Oh yeah, they kicked me out.
So
I left the band. I left the band after the first 3 records.
Was that difficult to go through that?
Yeah.
On a personal level, it was.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Because
but it was very good because we weren't communicating, and it was a good thing for me at that point.
In hindsight.
In hindsight, but very quickly. I mean, within a year or so, I was already forming my own bands again.
Because that's where, you obviously formed Sabado. So
I had formed Sabado even before the breakup of the band. Or the leaving Dinosaur.
In that sense, were you in your mind already getting ready of leaving the band?
I didn't think so.
No. No.
It was still personally it wasn't a surprise. But I guess creatively it was a bit of a surprise because I thought I thought what we had worked really well.
Yeah, we had something that worked, but it was just so volatile. It was hard to get along and to create together, and so it came to an end.
There was just no one in the band seemed particularly. I mean, Jay was the leader of the band, but he was very uncomfortable being the leader of the band. He was very annoyed. So, you knew it was a situation.
And then when you talked about Green Mind, that was I was working with Jay still, but that was when Jay really started coming into his own as a singer-songwriter, starting to play all the instruments. That's why I only play on 3 songs on that record. And so Jay was already starting his own departure, so I kind of saw things that our relationship would change and we wouldn't work together so much, because I could see that.
In that sense, maybe particularly the third, but was that period, the 3 albums, was it an enjoyable period?
Which one? The first 3
albums?
albums?
The first 3 albums?
Sometimes it was great, and then other times it was not great.
Brutally hard.
Brutally hard.
If you again look with hindsight, then do you know why it was so volatile?
Well, yeah. We didn't communicate. We were young and we didn't communicate.
Plus, you're with people where you don't have the same interest. You're clashing. People are annoyed. At things you like, they don't like. There's just constant clash. It's uncomfortable.
It was the first time that, for instance, it was the first time that Jay and Murph had left Massachusetts, really. I mean, it was the first time that we really traveled as
a band.
We traveled. It was the first time we traveled without our parents.
Yeah.
We were leaving our homes. We were leaving our little nests that we were brought up in, and we were becoming. That was our. It was like our military.
We weren't like the typical band where we were all buddies in high school and we're like, hey, why don't we form a rock and roll band? It wasn't like that. We formed because of the music and then had to try to become buddies and communicate. It was about the music. It was kind of the opposite of the way most kids do things when they grow up musically.